Hello, everyone. Welcome to my session. I'm titled How to Be Your Own Marketing Team. There's a lot that I'm going to be covering today, and I'm going to be moving at a semi-quick pace, but I'm just so thankful to be here and so thankful you're all here with me. To get us started off, my name is Jeremy Alexander. I'm a digital marketing specialist at Papersword B2B, and it's really nice to meet you. I've been working in marketing for a few years now, and I help clients explain the complexities of their business in an easy to understand way that resonates with their customers. Is the highest level way I can describe it. What I really focus on day to day is planning digital marketing campaigns like email marketing, search engine optimization, and cost per click advertising to really generate results for our customers and ultimately start feeding in more sales for their organization. I'm going to be having a few resources at the end of my session, as well as some contact. If I don't catch up on everything or something seems not super clear, please don't hesitate to reach out either through the chat with a question or after my session to let me know. I'd love to talk to you about it. So to get us started off, a lot of people really just see marketing as social media. The idea of it is we want to go viral, whatever that means in these days. And it's all fluffy feel-good pieces, spam emails, and it's really impossible to translate the work that you're doing into actual results. Today, I'm going to talk to you about ways that data-driven marketing to better understand when things are working, when they're not, how to improve them, and ultimately make better business decisions. As you can see here, this is an example of how, an average marketing agent would say, I think this is going to be great. We're going to start an amazing story called McD Stories. And then reality happens, and a lot of people engage with that in a way they don't really anticipate. And what I really find with marketing, especially with social media, the audience engagement doesn't always go the way you think it should, and it really helps to put some strategy around that. So I wanted to get us started off with the most literal definition from dictionary.com on what marketing is, which is the action or business of promoting and selling products or services, which doesn't really tell us anything if you think about it. So I decided to choose a much better recommendation from HubSpot that really speaks to the 10,000 feet view of what marketing is and how it is driving your business forward. Marketing delivers standalone value for prospects through content with the goal of demonstrating product value, strengthening brand loyalty, and ultimately increasing sales. So what it's really saying here is the content that you're producing and sharing, if it doesn't have that standalone value that drives people to engage with it and get something out of it, regardless of what you're actually offering, you're not producing effective marketing. To put it this way, imagine you have a friend and that friend loves talking about themselves. And that's all they ever do. They talk about themselves, and you say, hey, I just, started this really great show on Netflix. They hear you, and then they go back to talking about themselves. That's not a very good friend. Effective marketing listens to their customers and then applies what they're saying to you and uses that to present them with content they actually enjoy that has value to them. And through doing so, that's how we're going to be building trust with those people, demonstrating that value, and ultimately increasing that brand loyalty. I'll let you in on a secret, and that's that most marketers do not know how marketing works. And it's not their fault. They're either write content, design visuals, provide strategy, or a million other things that I'm sure I'm forgetting for this. But the point is, when we're all focused on just a piece of the overall picture, what happens is, as we can see in the slide, people assume that their part of it is the whole thing. And what's often missing for that is how it all fits together and how to really strategize a start to finish marketing model. I can't believe I'm actually using an engine diagram, by the way, to explain something that's really out of my focus. But marketing is made up of many moving parts, just like an engine, and I thought it fit really well for that. It's a marketer's job to really tell you that their specific part of the system is exactly what you need. And I totally don't blame marketers for doing that. If your specialty is email marketing, you can speak to the differences that email marketing can make for a business. If it's social media, then that's what you can speak to. But ultimately, marketing is made up of all these different combined efforts, and users get touched by multiple parts of campaigns you're producing before they actually get driven to convert. So how do we actually measure that difference in performance when they've maybe opened an email, saw a social media post, watched a webinar and then decided ultimately, yes, I want to work with you. It's really hard to assign those values. And today I'm going to show you some ways that you can really start analyzing the information that's available across each of these platforms, across messaging, social media, email marketing, and search engine marketing to ultimately just get a little bit more insight into what's going on with your marketing and how it's impacting people. Just like an engine, there's lots of moving parts, like I said, but also the fact that when you use a diagram to try to explain engines or marketing, I always get confused. So I just thought that was delightful as well. So why I think you should care about marketing and why I think everyone should really care about marketing is not just because you're here for this session and I really hope that you care, but for the fact that effective marketing lets you get into the headspace of your customers and provide them with exactly what they're looking for. To do this, you need to be able to, one, target your customers effectively, and two, present them with a message that you know works for that audience within your overall audience. You should,
No worries.
so just to get us back where we were, why I think people should ultimately care about marketing is really the fact that by being effective in your marketing, it lets you understand who your target market is, present them with content that you know works for them, and ultimately be able to drive more business by knowing who you're talking to, finding them appropriately, and then ultimately being able to assign that value to them to build that relationship. So, why should you care about marketing? Because you care about your customers and you care about knowing what they care about. I'm going to let you in on a secret that I think everyone is aware of. Most companies waste an enormous amount of money on marketing. And even if you're not spending any money on your marketing right now, you're probably sitting there feeling a little bit anxious and thinking to yourself, man, I'm not spending any money on my marketing and I'm really anxious about it. So ultimately, with those concerns around money, either you're spending way too much money on your marketing and you're not seeing results, or you're spending no money on your marketing and you're feeling as though you're missing out on so much business. The main thing is for either of these cases, you need to really tune in and figure out what's working, what isn't, and then apply that with a marketing budget to get those results that you need. So this is really our 10,000-foot view on marketing, things that I think are going to be, really helpful leading into the next discussions we're going to be having. But I'm going to launch into messaging for next, but I just want to confirm, does anyone have any questions before I move forward? Are we feeling good on everything?
No questions on the Q&A so far.
Awesome. So for messaging, with throughout my work, we use the StoryBrand framework. This is what we use to simplify messaging for our clients. I really want to not try to get everyone to drink the StoryBrand Kool-Aid. There is many, many frameworks out there that you can use to really improve your messaging and do more. I will say this is the one that we use. We love it. I'm going to be showing some examples from it, but ultimately, there are a million and one messaging methodologies that you could be implementing for your business. And really, I think just finding the one that works best for you will work great. So for finding the right message, this you might recognize from your literature class in high school is the hero's journey. And just to walk through each of the steps here, a character encounters a problem who meets a guide that gives them a plan, calls them to action that either ends in success or failure. The main thing with this is that people really understand things a lot more when they're presented to them as a story, and we have the innate nature to enjoy stories. So by taking this framework and applying it to your business and all of the messaging that you're putting out there, it really helps you explain in the simplest ways the transformational journey that someone goes through by working with you. What's the story of your business? We take people from having complex SQL Server environments that aren't well organized and they're feeling so stressed about it to an easy dashboard they can view that lets them know we're keeping all the lights on, everything's secure, and they're able to see all the updates we're making in real time. That's the journey that you should be able to speak to for each of your customers so that they know, this is where they get to benefit from working with you. So to take this a little less, from 10,000 feet view and apply it to actual questions you'd be asking yourself, this is a more question-driven format of the StoryBrand framework. Really getting into the headspace of what do our customers want? What are their internal, external, and philosophical problems? And to kind of get under that a little bit, a really good example is I hate being stuck in traffic would be an external problem. An internal problem I'd be having is I get mad at myself because I sleep in and then get stuck in traffic. The philosophical problem I'm having as a result of that is why does everyone get stuck in traffic? I don't understand how it works. No one should be able to get stuck in traffic. By approaching people's problems from each of those three buckets of external, internal, and philosophical, it really lets you understand all natures of their problem. The external problem is the immediate problem they encounter, the one that they are immediately made aware of. The internal is how they're feeling about that issue. And the philosophical is really them wondering, why does this problem exist in the first place? So after really getting under who that person is you're talking to as that hero, what their problem is, and then positioning your brand as the guide to really solve those problems, you're telling that person, I understand who you are. I understand what you stand for. I understand the problems you're facing, and I'm very empathetic to them. But you know what? I'm going to create a plan that's going to solve all those problems for you. And it's through working through our business. And all you need to do is download this health check brochure, and all of your problems will be solved. And ultimately, by having that success and failure segment at the end there, what it really aims to achieve is, there needs to be stakes. So when we say, the success, that's the blue sky vision. You're saying to people, by working with us, you're going to have all of these benefits. But if you don't, you're still going to be stuck in traffic. So this website here, I always love to share because, at first glance, it looks pretty good. It's got a sleek design. The buttons look nice. Nothing to really complain about. But when we really look at what this is actually saying, and frankly, this is something I could see a lot of marketers sending to someone for final approval, we realize it doesn't actually say anything about what they do. Learn more, our mission, home, about, ambassadors, why start? That doesn't tell me anything. Your journey starts here to what? Artisan innovative solutions, again, to what? And even the call to actions, learn more or get started. It doesn't speak to at all what this is. And ultimately, I just wanted to share this example to show you, when we are looking at messaging, it's really easy when you're on the inside of it to think that people are going to totally get what you're talking about. But if you don't look at it and apply it through a framework of some sort, so you walk through the entire journey of someone working with you can end up producing website copy like this because you did it yourself in an afternoon. This is a really key takeaway from messaging that I really, if nothing else, would like to get across is the fact that everyone should be involved in your marketing, from production teams to people that are in leadership teams, all the way down to the people that are actually in the trenches and executing. Ultimately, by developing those brand resources and being able to say, this is our message, this is what we do, and having everyone have that buy-in to what that actually means, you're not going to be encountering broken telephone of people that are on sales telling potential customers that your services or solutions are one thing, and when they actually get into the execution phase of the project, they find out it's totally another. By being able to have these centralized documents and these open conversations with your entire team about what you do, who you are, and who you help, it really ultimately just benefits your organization in the long run and really helps you stay on top of all of the complexities of marketing and make sure that as new services and new products emerge, everyone has that buy-in and you're all on the same page. Social media. Okay, so I'm just going to pause for one more sec. Do we have any messaging questions, or can I keep this ball rolling?
Just go on. Everybody is listening, thrilled, and expecting the next slides.
Amazing. All right, so social media. I know that I kind of dragged social media at the start of the session, but it is very important, and I don't want you to think that I think that social media is bad in any regard. So let's talk about social. So some metrics that I really recommend keeping an eye on for your social media are impressions, engagements, and engagement rate. Outside of this, there are a few handy ones that each platform does share, but ultimately, these are the bread and butter of social media that tell you what's going on. To walk you through each one, impressions or visibility. How many people's eyeballs looked at your post? Engagements are, likes, shares, comments, clicks on links. Any way that they interact with it gets logged under an engagement. And engagement rate is usually the one that tells you overall how well your content's doing. It's the ratio of, for the number of people that look at your content, how many then go on to engage. Because if you have a very small audience pool, let's say you have 100 followers on Twitter, it is totally okay to have a low number of engagements month over month. But if your engagement rate is really, really high and it's performing really well, then ultimately it doesn't matter that you're not getting high volume of engagements. The ratio of people that are liking your content is huge, and that's ultimately what matters the most. Little ASMR sip of water. Thanks for the tip, Gabby. And then where to access these metrics. I'm going to include this in my slides after the session, but it is good to know that analytics.twitter.com is where you're going to visit to see those on Twitter. If you're on LinkedIn, which I recommend you totally do get on, it's under the analytics section of your company page. And for Facebook, it's under the insights section of your Facebook page. So for social media, the best way to think about the content you're producing is that it really does exist within four main phases. Those phases are awareness, consideration, conversion, and retention. And I'm going to speak to each one a little bit now. But the point really of producing content within each of these phases is that it lets you really speak to the subsets of people in your audience. Awareness is where people are first becoming aware of you. Maybe they've never seen you before, or they've seen you on a few hashtags, and really awareness is all about getting the word out, producing content that drives a base understanding of what you do, and ultimately speaks to what your services are and how people can work with you. So for this post, an example, you can see in the bottom here, we're speaking to all these aspects of what we do at our work. We're explaining, not just our level of StoryBrand certification as being able to be a facilitator, but it also means that, when you click into that link there and they are going through, they'll see that we're also guide certified. We're also StoryBrand agency certified. We are every kind of StoryBrand certified you can be. And this is a great way because when this post first came out, it was just when that facilitator program was getting launched. So we knew we would generate a lot of awareness around that. And we used that to then promote our other services within that StoryBrand window. For the next phase, consideration, this is when people are thinking about working with you. And really the main thing to get across at this phase is the positive outcome that people get when working with you and to convince them that you're worth watching. So ultimately, this is where I recommend putting in a lot of the details of the who, what, when, where, why, and how of it all. Really speak to what you do, how it works, and how people can work with you. And if you're talking within technical content, this is where I would pepper in some of the specifics. We are expert SQL Server performance tuners for these reasons, or we have these certifications, and really get into what happens when they work with you and why they should do it. So for us, we're saying, are you tired of ineffective marketing? Yes, I'm sure everyone is in that scenario. And then what we're doing here is we're able to speak to the difference between an agency and a guide. And we're using that to really get people that are on the fence between those two things. Do I want a StoryBrand agency or do I want a StoryBrand guide? I don't know. So we wanted to leverage that, people being potentially confused about those overlapping ranks to really just speak to why there's a difference, why they should choose us, and ultimately why we're both of those things. So it doesn't really matter. So no matter what side of the fence they end up on, they'd still want to work with us. Conversion, as the name would imply, is all about getting people to convert. Really, for this, it's about solid diversity in your content you're producing, not just to drive conversion for users across the board. You want to drive conversion across technical users and non-technical users. And the non-technical CTO that really is overseeing things might not need those complex natures that you're really going to be describing, and maybe they want to hear more about business impact. So it's really important when you're producing content that's supposed to drive conversion that you know who you're tailoring it for, that you're covering off all the bases across your audience and speaking to their individual pain points and positioning your brand as that guide to solve those problems. To convert, they need to be presented with the right content. So ultimately, it's all about a numbers game, right? We want to make sure that we're giving people the content they need that addresses their pain point, but also that communicates the value of working with you across the board, regardless of who they are. So for this here, this was definitely a little clickbaity. on our end, but we really wanted to, get people to be driven to this link where we had a survey that talks about their lead generation goals. So what we've done with this is, they click in through there, takes them to an assessment, and then after that point, we would nurture them through an email sequence that would then tell them about more benefits of working with us, get them to get on the phone with us, and ultimately drive more sales after they converted from this. Retention is the last phase, and it is basically just making people happy. Are you sharing blog content, case studies, testimonials, demos of your environment or webinars you're putting on? It's just giving them a reason to stay. After they've given you their money, they're already an existing customer, and ultimately you want to encourage them to keep working with you, keep engaging with you, and keep enjoying your content. So think of retention as a way of just keeping the lights on, keeping people happy, and giving them content that they really like to enjoy, or just something that makes them feel good. Like for us here, we just said happy holidays because, I mean, why not, right? It's just fun to let people know, they won't be able to contact us during this window, but also we're going to hope you have a great year. And that just really builds that relationship out a little bit more. So, really, just to boil it all down to the core of it all, the main way of getting the word out is social media, is for people that don't know who you are. The best way to think of each of these phases of content is that you've got to make sure that you know who your followers are, and you need to know what type of content those people respond to and then present them with it. When you're driving that increased engagement, you really got to leverage each of these phases of content because people in your audience aren't all going to be on the same pathway. Someone that found out about you 2 days ago is still an awareness, but someone that's been following you for months and thinking about it is that much closer to conversion. So it's really important that when you're producing content for each of these phases, you're also making sure that you're doing it not just in terms of a direct timeline. There's going to be people at different phases of their journey with you, and you need to make sure the content you're putting out there works for all of them. So for personal LinkedIn profiles, I've got a few tips here that I think are very helpful. If you're not already on LinkedIn, I really recommend getting an account because it really does make all the difference. I recommend spending 30 minutes on LinkedIn a day. It's also a pretty easy way to start off your morning and be like, sorry, I'm doing professional development. I'm getting some LinkedIn followers. And it lets you play around with the platform, connect with people you think are great, and ultimately this translates to a bigger network for you to reach out to in your future marketing and be able to tell them about what you do and hopefully foster some B2B sales. So for these tips, I definitely recommend a professional headshot that's recent, keeping your work history up to date, nothing really groundbreaking there. A solid bio and tagline for your profile, as that's what most people will see at a glance on those search pages, is those first lines of text. Really lets them know what you're all about. A cover image on your profile is really, really nice as well, especially one that speaks to your business. So if they're viewing your individual profile and I can see, on your banner, you work for this company, it definitely does drive me to want to go visit them and be able to see what's going on there. I also really recommend adding in your relevant skills and trying to get endorsements from your network because it will ultimately let you be able to just start having a list of people say that, yes, this person is amazing at SQL and they have 34 endorsements because they're so great. That looks very good for you. And finally, please, please only pose with one beer maximum is really important. Two is a bit overkill. I mean, maybe if it's like a light beer or like one of those like short Coronas, you could get away with two. But my official recommendation is one maximum for your LinkedIn profile picture. So putting your company's best feats forward on LinkedIn. Just a few things here I want to point out. Really getting an about section that's short and sweet is very important because I've seen so many that when you view them in LinkedIn and you click on it to see more, the window's like this big. And I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I'm like, wow, I didn't know this was an autobiography on the history of this company. So as nice as it is to list out really the history of your company and all the things you've done, I don't know if that's really the best area to put it on your LinkedIn. And keeping it short and sweet and telling them what you do, who you are, who's involved is really all they want to know in that about section. So make sure that you're really getting on that. I really recommend adding a cover image at least on your company page. There's a tool I'm going to link to at the end called Canva. I'll get into it a little bit later, but it makes anyone a graphic designer. I'm not a graphic designer. It is not my forte, and I use Canva all the time, and it's super easy. Track hashtags on your profile and list your company's location for local SEO are all super helpful tips to dive into. And also just make sure that your cover image is really clear, has your logo on it, and your website is linked to in the website section. Just by doing these and logging onto LinkedIn every day and growing your personal network and then inviting people to follow your company page, you will see results that are going to get you mad at yourself for not doing it earlier. So I really can't recommend it enough. Take some time on LinkedIn, really commit to improving your profile a little bit by day and for your company page as well, and it really will help you in the long run. So I can see there's a few Q&A bubbles, so I'm just
Yes,
gonna pause for a
yes.
second there.
So just one question of myself before. Would one gin tonic be okay as well? Would that be sophisticated? No,
Oh,
sorry.
I think you could definitely do two gin and tonics because they don't
Okay.
know. Maybe one's water, it's clear. I think you'd be
Okay.
fine.
No, great. We actually have two questions which I would like to ask. First one,
Amazing.
yeah, the first one is actually you mentioned the analytics of your social
Hmm.
media interactions, and the question is, how actually do you rate if your social media interactions, or how do you rate if the figures you receive from the analytics are good?
That's I hate when people say that's a really good question, but that's a really good question. I would say on average, what we see for engagement rate, if you're getting a 3% engagement rate, you're doing pretty standard, pretty good. It definitely varies on audiences. I will say overall, if you're getting upwards of 500 impressions on a tweet, you're doing pretty good. It really also is based off your current follower numbers. So I really recommend you reaching out to me, and I can give you some direct insight for your personal numbers if you'd like that. But it is a bit of a numbers game in the sense of if you're having 30,000 followers and you get 13 impressions and 14 engagements, that's horrible. If you're having 25 followers and you get those numbers, that's amazing. So it really does depend on the size of your audience to really determine which numbers are good or bad. But I will say, in terms of percentages, if like 10% of your audience can see the post, I think that's really good because the algorithms are always never your friend in presenting people with content. And then if 5% of that 10% goes on to engage, I think you're performing really, really well. So, that's kind of how I would view it. It definitely depends though on existing metrics. And instead of having a defined, this number is good and this number is bad, I would say it's really important to look at the trends over time. And as you're testing out new content, if you notice engagement is taking a dip or you're trying out new hashtags and impressions take a dip, that's really where you need to base those learnings instead of just this number is good and this number is bad. But definitely reach out to me because I'd love to get my hands on those analytics and let you know what I think.
Cool. That sounds great. I think that's a good answer. If you need more information, please just put another detailed answer in. The
Totally.
second the second question actually is, how do you deal with trolls? And I think that's
Mm.
nowadays it's really a
Oh
problem.
yes, trolls, my favorite. So how I deal with trolls, and this might be obvious when you see me slash hear me, is I just kill them with kindness. I throw those smiley emojis out. I act like I'm just talking to my grandma, and that everything they're saying is just totally fine because ultimately the main thing with trolls is they want a reaction out of you. Right? So by being pleasant and short and sweet or just outright ignoring, I think that it really does do a benefit in the long run. But if you're finding that someone is consistently abusive on your posts and is being just cruel and trolling constantly, that block button is there for a reason. And I am a huge fan of blocking. I love a good block, and that's the one thing that's really great about social media. If someone's not adding positive things to your experience, you can mute their profile, you can block that profile. They don't know that you've done it unless, they're visiting your profile to troll you. And in which case, well, I mean, I don't really care if a troll knows that I blocked them. So I'd say really, go high, don't go low. Block when you need to if they're, really changing the tone of those posts, but be open to feedback and, try to connect with the troll as best as you can at first and then block them if you don't like them. That's my honest advice.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Awesome. So email marketing, much less troll based that I know of. Way more goblins though, sadly. So just diving in there for some key metrics to get us kicked off that are really important to keep in mind. So for the open rate, of course, this is just letting us know number of emails opened. Unique opens is the number of users who open an email. So one thing that is sometimes confusing for people is, the open rate is how many people opened your email as a percentage. The total opened is how many times they opened it across all users. And then, so, if a user opens it 16 times, that's 16 total opens going in. But that's only one unique open because that's the one user. And then click rate follows the exact same methodology except focusing on clicks. And the click through or engagement rate is the percentage of how many of the users who opened then went on to click. And that number is really important because it definitely, speaks to once you've captured their interest from that subject line, how does that translate into results? Deliverability rate is also incredibly important. If you're seeing anything lower than 99%, talk to me. There's some ways we can fix that. But definitely a good rule of thumb is if a user's email gets bounced 3 times in the span of 3 months, I'm going to clean them. I'm going to remove them from my audience because if you keep emailing people and getting deliverability errors, it actually lowers your deliverability score for your entire domain and can even lead to huge penalties. And I definitely just recommend if you're noticing that someone is consistently not getting your emails, then you need to visit out why that's happening and ultimately either remove them from your audience because it's not working or find a way to make it work. Unsubscribe. I definitely think, for this number, if you're seeing anything more than 0.5% of your audience unsubscribing email over email, you definitely need to make some changes. We never like to see anyone go. So definitely, if you're noticing they're leaving in flocks, maybe you're emailing too often. So for some common problems or just real things that I see for each of these, if you're seeing low opens, that's really as a result of a poor subject line. If you're seeing low clicks, maybe your calls to action are a little bit weaker, or your offer isn't juicy enough, maybe. If you're seeing a low engagement percentage, this is the one that hurts the most if you have a great open and a low engagement, because it means everyone was so interested in what you had to say on that subject line, and you lost all of them. So either the subject line was misleading, or the offer itself wasn't juicy enough. But if you're seeing really high opens and really low engagement rates, it just means that you're really good at capturing their attention, but you can't hold it and drive that conversion. So the fundamentals of email marketing, I'm going to dive into each of these a little bit on the following slides, but avoid spamming, personalize your content, and let go of failing relationships. Oh, they were so happy at one point. What happened? So applying these fundamentals and avoiding spam, the key things that I think are really helpful are setting a content schedule, monitoring for unsubscribes and spam complaints, cleaning your email lists, monitoring engagement trends, and not emailing too often. So to expand on these a little bit more, I think the most important thing in avoiding spam is really listening to your audience and looking at the data. If you're seeing those unsubscribes are trending upwards, then your email sends should be reducing in frequency until you really get under that and understand why people are unsubscribing. If you ever get any spam complaints ever, that should set off a siren in your house, and let if someone flags it as spam, even if they are a troll, it does really hurt your deliverability score, and in some cases can even lead to your domain being blacklisted and you not being able to send any more emails. So I will say, take these spam complaints very seriously and definitely try to figure out why people are leaving your email audience. And I'm going to get into that in the letting go a little bit more, but really, take those spam complaints super seriously. Keep an eye on how frequent you're emailing people, and really just try to understand the why of the unsubscribe in a nutshell. So for personalization, I every time I see an empty merge tag in email marketing, I definitely have like a flashback. I am not ready for it. It definitely is a marketer thing. If you see one of these, you've completely lost me. I'm like, you didn't even know my name. Very upsetting. So one thing to note with personalization is it's so effective and it works great because you can build these really solid relationships with people, but it's so much more than just autofilling their first name or company name. You can use personalization to see, wow, this person's clicked on every DBA article I've ever put out every single time on my newsletter, but they've never once clicked on a dev one. You can use personalization to set rules in place that you can say, you know what, since this person has shown me that they love DBA content so much, in this personalized content block I'm going to add to my email, if they've clicked on more DBA articles, they're going to get a DBA article. If they clicked on more developer articles, they'll get a developer article. And by using personalization as more than just a way to autofill someone's name, you'll be able to, in the long run, capture more engagements from users. But to reiterate, if you are using personalization, please make sure you are using it correctly, or else you'll be encountering situations like this. One thing to note is the best way to make sure that you're really getting all of that information you need to be effective in personalization is really making sure that you collect the same information from your users every single time. So if there's a sign up form for a PDF download that only asks for an email, but every other form I use requests a first name, last name, and company name, they're going to get this email because I didn't ask for their first name. So it's really important that if you are using personalization, make sure that what you reference is collected across all the boards. And if it's not, you have placeholder content in place that really lets those people still engage, but gives them a generic version instead that's not going to give them an empty merge tag. Letting go. So the main thing about letting go of subscribers and being able to really see when it's not working and end it is you really want to give options. So what I recommend is, if you have multiple types of emails that you're sending, maybe let people subscribe to just one of those types at a time. Because when you present people with the option of you're getting all my emails or you're getting none of my emails, those people are often left feeling, that it's all or nothing. And you're going to see a lot more people leaving your audience rather than just saying, I don't like this one email. So I really recommend adding in email subscription types, adding an optional survey people can do to let you know why they're actually leaving, cleaning your email lists. As I've said before, if you're finding those emails aren't being delivered properly, or if someone hasn't opened an email from you in a year, maybe move them off your main list and only let them know about the big stuff. You know what I mean? And finally, just go for a clean breakup. There's no 1 foot in, 1 foot out. If someone says, I want to unsubscribe, they never, ever, ever should hear from you ever again, ever. I'm going to say it one more time for good practice, ever. Because, not just in terms of data privacy, but also reputational and that relationship. I know people that have unsubscribed from emails before, but they're still an ongoing customer of the company. So, it's not just email marketing at stake here. You can really bother someone to the point that they don't want to do business with you anymore. So it's really important that if someone says to you, I'm not interested, whether verbally through an unsubscribe, or you can intuit that by their lack of engagement, you could end up hurting actual business as a result of you continuing to email them. So SEO is coming up for us there. I don't think we have any questions, so I'm going to keep on moving, but all good, Gabby?
Yeah, all
Awesome. I'm
fine.
going to take this for a sip of coffee moment, though.
Yep. So actually, I would just point in a question at that. You were
Mm-hmm.
mentioning not to email or not to send too many emails.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have something like, I don't know, a rough estimate how to get started? Because I think like with rates, it's a very individual thing.
Mm-hmm. My usual rule of thumb is I try not to send more than 2 a week, and never the same topic twice in the same week, just so that way people have the most flexibility in it. But of course, there are cases where that does get slightly changed. I will say, really the best way to know when you're sending too much emails is look at the individuals that unsubscribe and see how many emails they got in the past month from you. And that'll really tell you as that you start to trend that out. And you can even just snap it in an Excel file and say, wow, all the people that unsubscribe from us, they've received 8 emails from us that month. That's too much,
Yeah.
and you can use that to guide it. So like as you shift the cadence of those emails, or you can even set it that, in your email marketing strategy that, let's test this. So let's, have everyone in email group A get 5 emails this month, and we're not going to send that fifth email to people in group B. And let's see which group unsubscribes more. And you can kind of use those, A/B testing kind of mechanics to really see, how do people respond to the cadence of emails, and how does that ultimately become related to unsubscribes.
Cool.
Cool.
So
So for SEO, key metrics to take a look at and keep in mind are users, the number of people who visit your website, sessions, the number of times those users visit your website, and page views, the number of times users visit those pages across each of those sessions on your website. A bit of a tongue twister, but so fun. And really, with each of these, the idea is measuring how many people are there, how often are those people there, and how much content did those people consume all of the times they were there. The session duration focuses around how long, in terms of time, they were there on your website on average. The bounce rate's a really important metric to keep an eye on, and it focuses on uh, how many people go to your website, they look around and they say no, and they leave immediately without doing anything. So that lets are we having compelling enough content, or are they immediately leaving the second they see our website? The keyword ranking is how visible your domain is on specific keywords. Tools like Ahrefs let you track this, as well as a few I'll be linking to at the end. But definitely important to see where you're standing on that. And SEO is marketing lingo for search engine optimization. And really, what that just means is, when I type into a search engine your business name, how visible are you? Or when I'm typing in one of your key products or services, how quickly can I find your website? And that's really where it all boils into. So, increasing your website's visibility, there's lots of great tools. But really, the main thing to keep in mind is capturing that organic traffic, which is users who are using search engines, can be a huge business opportunity. There's lots of free tools. You want to make sure that you're having the basics set up with Google Analytics and Google Search Console. And you want to use keyword focused alt tags, metadata, header tags, and also blog categories and tags. If any of those terms are unfamiliar to you, let's definitely chat a little bit more. I'm not going to be going into too much depth on how those impact SEO today, but just so you know, ultimately there are some very great resources at the end of my slides that can really point out to you directly what's wrong, how to fix it, and really help you out there. To close on increasing visibility, one thing that's really important is blogging often. If you blog 2 or 3 times a month and you're actually using an SEO blog planner that works well and lets you track visibility on those keywords, you are going to have the best results. If you can commit to 3 blogs a month for a year, your website will go from 0 keyword ranking to first place in a lot of cases. So really, by spending that time and energy on blogging, it really just benefits you so much. Tools that measure your website traffic, Google Analytics, Search Console, and Google My Business. These are all super powerful tools. I will say you just want to make sure that you are being GDPR compliant when using them and not using any cookies on anyone until they consent to them. I have a plugin I'll link to at the end for WordPress users that just confirms that and make sure that they're not being tracked until they do confirm use of cookies. But really, SEO is all about making your website visible to users on the internet. So these tools are all going to help us do that, and I'm going to dive into each one a little bit now. So for Google Analytics, the features are outlined here on the slide, but really, the main uses for Google Analytics is for letting you measure organic traffic where people are coming from and to find your website on search engines, direct traffic, people that are going directly to your website, social traffic, people that click on social links, email traffic, people that click on your email links, and referral traffic, friends that are talking about you that lead to your website. And really, by using Google Analytics to track these different channels of traffic, as well as where your most popular content is and where your underperforming content is, it really lets you get a full picture of what your website looks like. And if you are bringing in marketing support in the future, by getting Google Analytics added earlier, you're enabling your marketing support to actually have a lot of data to base their decisions around. It's not them making assumptions through a shot in the dark. They can actually see how performance has changed over time and provide some more accurate recommendations. For Google Search Console, this is really all about teaching Google how to look at your website and Google letting you know what it hates about your website and what you need to fix. So Google Search Console is amazingly powerful, and I would argue does more for your SEO than Google Analytics does, but it's very Marsha. It's the underlooked sister, uh, and it definitely can get left behind in the dust. But I will say, if you don't have Google Search Console, setting it up is super easy. There's a plugin called Google Site Kit that lets you add Google Analytics, Google Search Console right into your website in just a few clicks. It's totally free. And by adding both of these, you're going to have analytics to tell you how your website's performing, and you're going to have Search Console telling you this is why Google is not liking your content and telling Google how to access your content to then present it on search traffic. Google My Business is all about really diving into local SEO visibility, speaking to your business as a business for users, and getting you visibility on on Google Maps. So with this, it's very, very easy to set up of all the Google tools, and I really recommend getting on top of it because when I'm searching for SQL Server help Tennessee, well, you'll show up because you've set up a Google My Business profile. Your competitors that are focusing more on that global stage will get that global stage visibility and will likely be very hard to unseat in the long run, but leverage your actual physical location and get that local traffic where you can. And Google My Business lets you do exactly that. And I will say it is hugely helpful for people that may not even have a formal website. There are a few options they have to even get you a really, really basic starting point that tells people, this is where you can contact me and this is what I want to do. And it's really great for people that are just getting off the ground and want to be able to at least have a place that people can call them pretty easily. And that's all I have for the SEO section. And I see we're lighting up, and we've got just under 15 minutes left for me to review these resources, which is exciting. Gabby, do you have some questions for me?
Yes, we have one question. Actually, I can agree to that. From a techie perspective, we are aware of technology and how to use that, but this is a lot of stuff you're talking about, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things. How to get started? How can we make it simpler for a techie?
I feel you. I totally feel that point. So, the one thing that I will say, and I'm just going to skip right over to the slide to show you, the Google Sitekit WordPress plugin. It, if you download this right now, you scan this QR code and you add this into your WordPress website, every tool that I just talked about, besides Google My Business, gets added in a breeze. It walks you through the whole process. It adds in all your tracking codes for you. And at that point, you'll be so well set up that you will be able to know that you're recording that information you need to be recording on your WordPress site. And you'll also be able to start capturing those analytics, and the dashboard that it shows within this specific tool really gives you the highlights of all things Google Analytics. And you can use that to start really getting under that information a little bit more immediately. So I will say there are a lot of tools, and there's even more to come in these resources section, but to really make it easy for yourself, this is a great place to start. And if nothing else for SEO, if you can add in Google Search Console, and if you can add in Google Analytics through this, you will be set up to really be able to do a lot more for your SEO and being able to take it bit by bit once this initial leap is made. All good? Good if I keep moving?
I, I think so. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Okay. But yes, it totally is overwhelming, and I am always available for a chat over email or social for sure. So don't hesitate to reach out if that is the case, because I know it can be a lot, and I definitely want to make sure that everyone feels really good with applying what we're talking about today directly into their website for their marketing.
Cool.
Yoast is an amazing plugin also for WordPress. Really, what this lets you do is it lets you, one, create a sitemap that you can link directly to into Google Search Console, which is super helpful. So instead of having to use any other tools or upload your sitemap through your hosting or any of that technical stuff, Yoast says, no problem, I got you. I'll create your sitemap for you. You can link to it directly. It's usually your website link slash sitemap dot XML is the link it will create, and that's what you'll tell Search Console to access. And it also lets you edit the metadata or post preview content that you'll be sharing on social. So when you share a blog or even a page, Yoast will let you edit that metadata. That will then change how that appears in the description and title that other people will be seeing, which ultimately helps your SEO in the long run. So it's really great. There's tons of documentation, by the way, for both Yoast and for Google Sitekit in that setup process. So definitely check both of those out. I love them both so much. This is made by yours truly. I created an email marketing flowchart diagram. You can scan there to get Rickrolled, or you can scan here to download my template. I will say for this, it's really helpful in just mapping out the who, what, when, where, how of your email marketing. So you're able to see, after users behave in a certain way, how do you then go about adding them to your email marketing audience, and what do those flows look like, and where do they end, and where we can expand. It's just a really helpful planner in being able to map out, if you want to do a welcome nurture, what happens if someone opens that from the green circle? What email would they get versus someone that doesn't open it? What email would they get then? And it really just helps you plan a little bit more. And also, really think about it logically of, if someone behaves in this one way, what do they get versus someone that behaves in this other way, and mapping that out really easily. Well, semi-easy. SEO Site Checkup, this is a great place to get started. This website is amazing. It will let you know everything wrong with your website, and it will tell you directly, what images in question are missing, titles, and it will let you know which pages have a low speed. And it's really great just for getting under all of those complex things for SEO. It just tells you at a glance, this is what you need to work on. You can pass it off to any developer and have them update it. Or you could update it yourself with relative ease. I love this tool. It's totally free. Get on it. Cookie Yes, another great tool that I love. And sorry again about the bombardment of tools. I'm sure that it's like, whoa, but they'll be available after, don't forget. But Cookie Yes is really great because it's for GDPR compliance. When you're using these analytics tracking tools, you want to always make sure that you're not actually capturing cookies until people say that you can. And this plugin makes that very simple. You can stylize it. I absolutely love it. Have no complaints here from using that. Hootsuite is really, really helpful for scheduling and laying out your social media content on a calendar and being able to see when you're talking about things. It's a little bit of a secret that they do have a free plan. So I will say, if you are, dipping your toes in investing more in producing that social media content, the Hootsuite free plan is an amazing place to start. It definitely makes it really easy to just, not have to post all of your stuff the day of, right as you want to do it. By being able to carve out some time and schedule well in advance, you'll be able to really, get under your social media as a monthly activity instead of as you get a chance once every 3 months kind of thing. So I mentioned Canva a little bit earlier, and graphic design is definitely my passion. But for this, I will say for social media, it's really important to capture the attention that people um, as they're like doom scrolling with a banner. And Canva does make it really easy. You can upload your design assets in there. I know everyone says it's really easy to use graphic design programs and it's really hard, but I mean it. I do think this one is quite easy. There's tons of great templates. You could even just take an existing template, drop your logo on it, change the text, and be good to go. I really can't recommend Canva enough. It's also free. Some assets are payment gated, but even the Canva premium plan is very affordable, and I can't say enough good things. So if you're a one-person marketing department, then I would definitely recommend getting Canva because it will enable you to create custom proposals that are PDFs. You can create banners for social media. You can even do website content banners with it and really be able to enable yourself to do a lot more than what you could do on your own. If you love dashboards, but you're not a Power BI master like me, I love Dashless. It lets you pull in through their templates a lot of resources and be able to ultimately just produce really solid dashboards that pull in data from your social media, your website, everything all combined. And it's really just helpful overall, and I love it. And also, just to be really honest, they have the best logo ever. So if nothing else, that's why you should download it and totally get set up with them. And just to close us off, this is my last slide before my thank you. And you can scan here to access my Google Drive folder. But again, all of my slides are going to be available through the New Stars website after this event, so there's nothing to worry about there. I also wanted to link you to the ungated, no email required version of some paper stored B2B resources. If you just visit this link, you'll be able to access some of these story brand assets we use, some other great stuff that I really love. And I definitely recommend just taking a look there and being able to dive in. Again, my slides will be available, so it'll be great for that. And thank you so much, the entire New Stars of Data team. I am just so thrilled to be here. Thank you, Ben Weissman. Thank you, William. And of course, thank you to my wonderful mentor, Kostya. I am just so happy to have this be my first time entering the speaking world, and I am just so thankful. And thanks so much. And if you have any questions or feedback, please, 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 please do not hesitate to reach out and shoot me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn, or just send me a letter to my totally real home address included here at the end.
That's great. um, so no questions at the moment. Thanks from my side, Jeremy. That was amazing. And I think
Oh,
from the
thank
comments
you.
in the chat and from the questions, I think everybody agrees. Um, personal, I have to say that there is a lot of information I can take out of this, but there is two things I would just love to highlight because I
Mm,
love that. First, I love that you mentioned that stories is something which most people can work with best.
hmm
Um, I know that I can do it best because I'm telling stories to myself to make me understand things, and I'm always wondering if other people are doing that as well. And I love
You're not
that you,
alone.
that's good to know. And I love that you were mentioning the retention period for the
hmm
customers, because I think something everybody of us is aware of is if you have the impression that a
hmm
company is paying more attention to gathering new customers instead of keeping the existing ones. I
Totally.
really love that point. And
Oh, thank you. But yeah, it's so true, right? There's so much after too, and even after that first conversion, there's so much more business opportunity as well, where by having those lifelong users and really focus on retaining them and teaching them about new services as they emerge, it really just keeps them in the know and opens you up for just so much more opportunity. So I love that.
Yeah!